All right, we're going to be talking about collaboration today, collaboration in songwriting, and how that works, and the pros and cons, and our general experiences. It can be very daunting for a new songwriter, or a younger songwriter, a songwriter who's writing primarily as self-expression. It can be daunting because you might think, well, this is a very personal thing for me. How will bringing another person into this process help? My argument is you may be surprised. They can often bring things out of you that you wouldn't even know are there. Does that square with your songwriting collaboration experience, Alister?
It very much does. And the years that I've been writing songs by myself, I've grown, I've evolved, I've learned the craft. But so much of what I do as a songwriter has also been informed by collaborating with other people, and learning from the process of collaborating, and learning from their experiences and their strengths as well.
Right. It's not just what they're bringing to that moment. It's what it's in terms of your idea and what you're working on, but it's also all of their cumulative experience and all of your cumulative experience, so that if you get stuck, you painted yourself into a corner with a song, they can help you get out of that corner.
Yes, but it's no guarantee. In fact, if I work with somebody who's written some great songs, no guarantee that when we get together we're going to write a great song, is it? I think some people, when they enter into a collaboration, they have that expectation. Oh, I've heard the great stuff that you've written. I've heard your best 10 songs. Therefore, I have a strong expectation that when we get together, we're going to write something as good as those songs.
Right. Well, yeah. I mean, I certainly had that experience. The co-writing I had done was within my band. It was with the guitarist Danny Levy, and really he was finishing songs and doing a great job. I don't want to diminish it at all, but he was finishing songs that I had the chorus and maybe a verse for, and he would write a bridge or he'd write another verse or whatever. But that wasn't out. That was very safe. It was within the band. My first collaborative experience outside the band was with Eddie Schwartz, who is a towering figure in songwriting. He wrote "Hit Me With Your Best Shot," that was a big hit for Pat Benatar and other people, actually. And he also wrote other hit songs as well. But for me, I actually thought I think at the time I was young enough and foolish enough to think, ka-ching, I'm going to write with this guy and we're going to have a big hit and it's going to be fantastic and I'll be living in a mansion in Blair or something like that. And it didn't work out like that. And no disrespect to Eddie in any way, or me for that matter. It was just the way most collaborations go. You come up with something and maybe it's pretty good. In our case, we didn't even come up with something because I was so new to the process. He started noodling away on the guitar, and I actually thought, what are you doing? Like, why are you making those noises? He was sort of noodling and humming. And I thought, what's that? So I, in my confusion, I said, I have a list of titles that I think might be good, and I didn't even know that's how I tended to write songs. I started with a title, and I handed it to him. He looked at the titles. He went down the list. Silence, ensued, and I got nervous sitting there waiting for his judgment. And he turned to me and he said, "Blair, I don't know if this is a list of titles so much as a cry for help. I think you might need a psychiatrist." And it was funny, but it was also deflating. I mean, he was kidding, but at the same time, it was deflating. And we ended up not being able to write something that time. And there was an important lesson in there, which is not every collaboration is going to be successful. And it doesn't really matter who you're collaborating with in terms of their track record. Every song is a new start. Every new song, you're not writing "Hit Me With Your Best Shot" again. You're writing something else, whatever it may be. And it may be better, and maybe a bigger hit, but it's not the same. And that was an important thing for me to learn. The other thing I had to learn from that, and I think you would speak about this too, is coming in prepared. When you go into a co-writing situation, how many ideas do you typically have, or do you have any?
It is way more productive to go into a co-writing session with some suggestions, whether they be musical suggestions or lyrical suggestions. But I think it can depend on the team that's writing. If I collaborate with somebody who is more often than not the starter, and I am somebody who helps get those ideas into fruition, then maybe I can be lazy and I can rely on them to come in with the idea book. But that won't work for me in every collaboration, will it? Especially if I'm blindly paired with a new writer and I show up and I'm unprepared, and then we have a terrible
You mentioned the team, and because often a collaboration in songwriting, especially these days, can be multiple people, more than just a pair of people. Sometimes it's three or more. Sometimes you'll see on big hit records there might be 5 or 6 writers. Um, Typically, do you have a typical role in that team? Because I think that once you get into 3 writers or more, then people sort of have their their strengths that they are known for in that circle. Would you say you have like lyrics, melody, chord changes, production?
Being a musician and a lyricist myself, I'm capable of sliding into different positions, but I do know that there are songwriting teams, maybe these power songwriting teams, that are strategically built where somebody's strength is you're the beat maker, and you come up with the hooks, and you are the melody writer, and you're the lyric writer, and those strengths are put together to make for a great team.
Yes,
as
right.
long as as long as each player on the team understands that, well, if the lyric writer says it's a good lyric, maybe I should listen, and I shouldn't come up with my idea because I'm a beat maker.
Right.
Know your strengths and play to them.
Right, right. It's funny. I was only in a trio like that once, where there was a producer with a laptop and Pro Tools, and there was the artist, and there was me. And I think my role was more lyrics than anything. But here's the thing: the artist was Lights. Lights is a very accomplished producer herself, and lyricist, singer. Lights can do it all. Just really wanted a fresh take on a song rather than help. Sometimes an artist needs help, they don't even know what to write about. But in this case, lights was very together, and Tino Zolfo and I were really along for the ride. And so I was able to contribute a bunch of lyrics, and but the main lyrical idea came from Lights. Tino was able to contribute the beat and a lot of the accompaniment, but then Lights took over, and she was sitting doing harmony vocals. And like by the end of the writing session, and this was amazing to me because I'm used to writing sessions where 2 people have acoustic guitars, and at the end you go, okay, well, I think it's mostly together. At the end of this session, we had a full demo with harmony vocals and guitars and like everything. It was amazing to me. But I have to say that's unusual. I would say most of the time I finish my writing sessions with a mostly finished song, and we agree to go to our respective corners and contribute the final parts. And I would still consider that a successful session. By the way, successful collaboration.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And even though I do describe these, these specific roles that one might play in the room, it doesn't have to be that. Yeah, sure, you might feel that, oh, I'm missing something. I don't have a laptop producer in this session, and if I did have a laptop producer in this session, I could defer a lot of the in the moment work to somebody who can do it very quickly.
Yes.
And even
Yes.
though it's something that I could do later at home, there's a joy in bringing somebody in who would not only do it quicker and make my eyebrows go up, but would also bring to it something that I wouldn't have done myself. And that's the magic in the collaboration, isn't it? You were in the room, the 3 of you were in the room, but you contributed something that Lights wouldn't have come up with, wouldn't have been inspired to do in that part of the song. And that's the beauty of the collaboration, isn't it?
It is, and it's the whole reason really for doing it. Unless the whole reason for you is that you're dry and have no ideas at all at this moment. But yeah, it's to get other people's input. One of the things, and it's not a songwriting thing, but one of the things that Lights was resistant to that I contributed was a lap steel guitar, which is primarily associated with country music, and her music is anything but country music. And I wanted to do a sort of a swoop into the choruses as a dynamic build. And it was one of the only production ideas that I contributed because really I was there for lyrics and melody and writing as opposed to arranging. but I had my lap steel and I said, here, let's try this. And she was like, oh, I don't know about that. Not convinced yet. And I said, no, well, I haven't played it yet. So no reason to be convinced yet. Wait till I play it. So then I played it and she was like, oh, I don't know. And then I said to Tino, I said, do you mind pulling that back in the mix? And he did. And next thing you know, it was doing exactly what I hoped it would do, which was create this sort of excitement into the chorus, like, here we are, sort of. And it was very gratifying, because Lights was very positive about it. It was really,
that's
really
excellent.
worked out well. Yeah.
Those are the moments we live for in collaboration, isn't it? So many times these pairings, they come up dry, and for any number of reasons. But there are these moments where we realize, oh, this is it. And
this is it.
Not only did we have a great songwriting moment, but we shared it with another person.
Yeah, that's true.
Which elevates it even further.
Yeah, and on a practical note, the fact that you're sharing it with another person, and if they're excited about it too, it means now that song is going to get worked, so to speak, by another person, by other people on a team now. How do you find these people, though? How do you find collaborators?
Any number of ways. Maybe now well, in fact, there is kind of the internet dating of collaborating now. There's an app. It's called We Should Write Sometime. And it's kind of like Tinder for songwriters, where you set up your profile, and when you open the app, you're presented with writers in your. I think it's not, really hasn't really evolved with the pandemic. It's still based on who's in your geographic area, because you're going to write together in person.
Right.
So it presents you with a list of other writers on the app in your geographic area, and you either swipe left or swipe right, and you set up a co-write with somebody you've never met before.
That's fantastic, actually. That's very intriguing.
It is very intriguing, but just as often it's somebody
Yeah.
somebody you probably somebody you trust, because it is a very vulnerable relationship to be in the room and wanting to suggest your most vulnerable ideas and be comfortable doing that.
Right.
So it could be somebody it could in fact be somebody that you haven't met yet, but you've heard their music and you'd love to write with them. So you be brave and you reach out and you say, gee, Blair, I'd love to write with you. And Blair says, who are you? And am I going to like this?
Right. Absolutely. Let's talk briefly about songwriting collaboration etiquette, because I think it's really important. I think that, first of all, if you enter into a collaboration with someone and you offer up your idea, or they offer up their idea, I think then it then belongs to the two of you or the three of you, however many collaborators you have, in the sense that it's yours collectively to develop it or not. I think that's important to acknowledge, that if you've offered it up and you're being in the spirit of collaboration, it now belongs to the group. Now, what that means is, I think you can't take that song and finish it on your own without saying to the other people, you know what, I wasn't happy with the way that turned out. Is it okay if I take it back? I think you have to ask, in other words.
I agree.
Yeah. And likewise, I don't think you can do anything unilaterally with it without the approval of the other writers, because they're now part of your team. Now, most people, this doesn't result in conflict. It sounds like it's fraught with conflict possibilities, but most of the time it's not. Most people are happy, if the song didn't work out, they're happy to give it back to you. They're happy to continue on working on it with you, et cetera, et cetera. When people get very territorial and possessive, however, that often leads to problems. So I would say, from an etiquette point of view, try to go into your collaboration and your potential collaborations with an open mind. Is that fair to say?
Absolutely. We can't go in there thinking, well, I know how this is going to turn out, and I won't be open to your suggestions. We can't.
Yeah.
Don't even bother booking the session if that's how you plan to show up.
I liken it to a prison meal mentality. Not that I've spent any time in penitentiary or even in local jail. Well, it's the idea of your meal. You're guarding your meal with your arm, and you're eating it. You're eating it like that, making sure nobody can get to it. It's like, go in. Here's some of my meal. Have some of my meal. Let's make a better meal. That's my analogy. I don't know.
yeah, I don't know where to go from there. But yes, but absolutely. Sometimes we'll come out of a co-writing session, and one of the co-writers will be really excited to continue working on the songs, and the others may be lukewarm. How do we deal with that?
Yeah, that's a good question. I would say lukewarm, I think, is completely dealable, because it just means maybe they're not interested in pursuing the song and, you know, doing more work on it. I think you work on it if the two people who are not lukewarm, or the one person, continue working on the song, but you've got to continue to split the song 50-50. I think, you know, I you can't change the split unilaterally. You can't come back to the person and say, yeah, so I worked on it a bit more, and now I would like to split it, 70-30, 70 for me. I don't think it works like that. You might say to them, look, I did a whole lot more work and I came up with a whole new hook. And if they're a good person, they'll probably say, you should take the lion's share of the credit, then. But you can't decide that yourself, I don't think.
No. And the value of any one writer's contributions cannot be measured quantifiably. No. We look at it as a whole. We started the session with something.
Yeah.
We came out of it with something that we agree is larger than what we began with.
Yeah.
And therefore we as a team improved upon what we had at the beginning. And by virtue of that, everybody was part of the process. Yeah, if somebody's a lump in the end of the room and they're reading a book in the co-writing session and they're not contributing, that's really a rare case. It's a special case, and maybe there are cases in which it's easy to have a conversation and say, you know what, your contribution to this was this special piece, but it came in really late in the game, and the song is still the song without it. So maybe there's reason to say maybe that's less than an equal share.
It's an awkward conversation to have, though, I'll tell you.
An awkward conversation to have, and the question is it worth having?
Is it worth it? Most songs don't earn any money at all. That's a fact. Most songs languish in obscurity. Most songs, and I mean the vast majority of songs. So is it worth burning a bridge with a potential longtime collaborator, or even a potential friend or colleague, to fight over a percentage of what will amount to nothing? Absolutely. Very likely it will amount to nothing. Or if it amounts to something, it might amount to, $10 in Spotify royalties, streaming royalties. I mean, you're gonna lose a potential friend or a potential co-writer, or get a bad reputation amongst other songwriters for, to make sure you got $8 instead of $5. That's just reality. And
reality. Well, and another piece of reality, talk to any professional Nashville songwriter, and they'll tell you that, alone or with my collaborators, I've written 150 songs in the last year. But out of those 150, that songwriter and their collaborators agreed that 10 of them were worth putting money into making a demo recording.
And of those, one of those got cut by another artist, maybe. And then that song, they might have got cut and then not released.
So even the professional writers will agree that you don't always come out of a session with your best song. You don't always come out of your session with a great song.
Yeah. Or it might come out with a great song, but for whatever reason, it doesn't get cut. It doesn't get used. It doesn't make any money. And therefore, a lot of songwriters I've talked to, when it comes to splits, they agree that it'll all come out in the wash. That if you write 150 songs in a year, that, and you split them all 50-50 with your co-writer, or 30-30-30, ish with your co-writers, whatever the arrangement is, but it's an equal split. You'll make more money on this one and you'll make less money on that one, but it will all even out in the end.
Yeah.
And I think that is a pro-artist, pro-artistic, pro-creativity way of looking at things. When you get down into the little nitty-gritty of the details of pennies, nickels, and dimes, basically, and sometimes not even those, it can really kill creativity, I think. So yeah. Anyway, I despite these pitfalls, I come down firmly on the side of collaboration, and I think you do too. Not all the time. It serves a purpose for sure.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And on those days when we come out of a co-writing session and we have a song, and we know that it's not a song that'll ever see the light of day, we go back and we do it again the next day and we write another song.
That's right. And we work our brains and work those muscles. Yeah.
We're not measured by that one song that came out of that one session.
That's right. On that note, I think we must push on. Join us again for more thoughts on songwriting and conversations about creativity.